Hello, this is Dr. Jimmy again, and first I want to point out my t-shirt. It doesn't mean anything special, but it's kind of cool. See? Cary, Ohio. Go Buckeyes. There we go. I wonder what they drink in Cary, Ohio. Probably not beer, but something a bit more, I don't know, red and sticky. Tomato juice, of course, yes. Uh, Fresh from Meaty Meat's juice dispensary, I guess. Right, now this is a bit of a landmark video for me, because this will be the first in my Horror Nights history for the year 2010, Halloween Horror Nights 20 Years of Fear. There's a cat. I just saw a cat. I thought I saw a putty tat. It went that way. Actually, it's right behind me. Oh dear. Anyway, but yes, and the fact is, way back when I began the whole video series on Horror Nights history, I started with a video that was titled Horror Nights History Secret Origins. What a pretentious name that was. Yeah, Secret Origins, and that was on August 16th of 2010, which was in fact nearly but not quite 1 month before the beginning, actually a little bit more than a month now that I think about it, just about a month and a couple of weeks before the beginning of Halloween Horror Nights 20 Years of Fear, essentially. So it was a little more than a month. In other words, the event I'm about to begin, which is now Horror Nights history, wasn't Horror Nights history yet when I started this. It was still in the future. So I've got to that point then, where I'm reaching the events that hadn't happened yet when I started, so to speak. So a little bit of a landmark. Now the silly cat has gotten up behind the computer and is chewing on wires again. I hate when that happens. So I'm going to go back there where that window is, and I'm going to tap on the window, and the cat will come over there and be distracted. Alright, I'm back. See, sometimes if I go outside and I come back in the house, a little lizard will come in with me from the pool deck area, and the cat will go have a lot of fun, indulging in her native predatory instincts. Cats being, of course, the most efficient land predator on the planet. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view. Anyway, so we begin then. At last, after all this time, it took more than 5 years to get here, and hopefully it will not take 5 years to get through the rest of the events of Horror Nights that have happened since 2010. But now, to begin the event of Halloween Horror Nights 20 Years of Fear in the year 2010, I will now go back to the event of Halloween Horror Nights 19, ripped from the silver screen in the year 2009. What? Yes, we have to go back to that event in 2009. If you recall, in the last week of the event, a scare zone popped up, a bonus scare zone appeared called Shadows from the Past, which was set in Sting Alley in the New York area, and we had, of course, many great icons from the past, like Jack the Clown and the Caretaker, and some from the present at that time, like the Usher. And then, of course, we had somebody we had never seen before, at least not alive and kicking in the flesh. Would she then represent the future? Perhaps. This was, of course, lovely little Cindy Kane. Oh, little Cindy, the little dead girl, now alive again. And she was out to play for the very first time. I have to watch this kitty. She's malevolently sitting at the edge of the desk looking at the wires. Malevolent cat. Little Cindy Cat, almost. Yes, you little puss. Staring at me. Anyway, the Cindy, of course, was allowed to come out for the first time. We'd never seen her alive before. We'd seen her dead before, portrayed by a sort of mannequin. And, of course, we know that our Cindy's no dummy, but this was the first time she got to be played by an actual scare actress, so that was a lot of fun. But also, of course, as I mentioned, in the brochures and on the website, when they advertised this new Scare Zone Shadows from the Past, there was a sort of shadowy shape of two images sort of together, made up of maybe 4 tree branches or roots or vines or something like that, forming a sort of XX shape, which is like the Roman numeral for 20. Good God, what is the cat doing? What are you doing back there? I hear noises. What are you doing back there? Don't chew on wires. Cat chews the wires, it gets electrocuted, and that's not good because dead cats are no fun. And secondly, it blows out the computer, see, so I have to stop this again. Once more, distracto cat. Here we go to distract the cat again. I'm back. Of course, one thing I could do, if I actually caught a lizard and brought it back in with me, but if I did that, that would be cruel. Not to the cat, of course, but it would be cruel to the lizard. You have to look at it from all those points of view. See, I know it's one of those circle of life things, but if she catches it on its own, I suppose that's just nature. But if I catch it and give it to her, that's me being cruel. Or something, I think. Oh well. Morality. Anyway, where the hell was I before the cat interrupted me again? Oh yes, Cindy. So, we saw that double X symbol, like 20. Therefore, we thought, aha, must be a clue for Halloween Horror Nights 20 coming up the following year. And so we thought, what could they mean by this? It's just a retrospective year where we have all the old icons pop up again? Maybe. Or perhaps that something else, because Cindy is here and she's never been there before. Maybe this is a clue that Cindy is going to be our new icon, that to get to it she was supposed to have way back originally, back in 2002, when she was supposed to be the icon for the event back in 2002. Now at last to get her iconhood inaugurated, so to speak. What a neat idea. So we thought perhaps that's what they were getting at. And, you know, we were right. That is what they were getting at least at that time. Because, as we know, so many times in the history of Horror Nights, and we've seen it before, and we'll see it again, they have these really cool plans, but then, oops, we have to go back to the drawing board, and that's what happened again that year, because they did indeed plan to make it Cindy's year. Cindy was going to be the icon. And they had a whole intriguing scenario which went something like this. So the whole idea was that it was sort of like passing the torch. They're going to, this will be the last time you'd ever see the old icons of Jack and the caretaker and the storyteller and the usher and the director. The last time you'd see them. And they would be passing the torch to little Cindy, who would then be representing the new generation of icons, and the whole change, a paradigm shift in how Horror Nights would be presented from this time forward. It was sort of reflective of an actual torch passing that was really happening, because J. Michael Roddy had left Universal after the event in 2009, and he went. He ended up going to another place, a sort of happier place down the street, down I-4 from a bit to the west, and into the west, depart like the hobbits went into the west, yes, something like that. And he went over there to that happiest place on dirt, and is doing other things there, and for a brief period there was really no one to run Horror Nights except TJ Manarino, who of course was the runner of the art design. And unlike Roddy, he wasn't one who was really interested in doing an awful lot of intellectual property movie themed houses. He preferred the original concept houses, and he came up with a paradigm shift. We're going to start doing an event now. Unlike Hollywood, they can do the movie adaptations. We'll do houses where you have a more cinematic effect of big total immersion in another world that we create entirely here. It's not a movie you've ever seen before. It's a new movie starring you. It's all new. It's not intellectual properties. To all original houses. And he wanted to go beyond the old established icons to newer established icons, new characters, the new franchises that would be like, you know, we had the Body Collectors, have been really popular and things like that. This would be what would become the Body Collectors now, what would become the next one to be the next big hit franchise. The idea was to move progressively forward into a new direction. You might even call it a new age of darkness or something. And so the symbol of it would be the torch passing from the old icons to the new, younger icon, Cindy, representing the new generation. But when you're passing a torch, you should make sure you're not passing it to a pyromaniac, because, yeah, Cindy burns things. Well, that's actually what the story is. This is what the storyline was. So there's this tree, this great gnarly old oak of evil. It's the great Halloween tree itself, right out of Ray Bradbury. And it's up on this creepy old hill, this tree, and little Cindy one day comes out of the dark with her little box of toys and goes up to the tree, and she opens up her box, and inside her lovely toys turn out to be 5 wooden spikes, wooden images, very intricately carved and painted, with a pointy end on the bottom like a big wooden spike. And the first one of these is Jack the Clown, of course. And the second one is her own dear dad, Albert Kane, the caretaker. And the third one is Paolo Ravinsky, the director. And then the fourth one is old Elsa Strick, the storyteller. And then, of course, the fifth one is of course Julian Browning, the usher. Tickets, please. All of these little people made out of wood, neat little totems, as they were called. And they might be rather familiar to some of you, especially really hardcore fans with spare pocket cash, who might, you know, want to spend an awful lot of it, because there were some people out there who spent several $100s. I forget how much was it, $600, $700 after all the shipping and the tax and delivery charges, to buy their own set of these little wooden totems last year, and then they got sent to them a few weeks after the event, in December or January, whenever it was when they finally got them. and they're displayed niftily on their walls somewhere. But I'm not exactly poor, but I didn't even buy one of those, sorry. And so they got all of these totems, but let's just go back to Cindy. So she took these when they were first created. The idea behind them was that she would take these to the base of the tree and stab, 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 stab into the dirt. They would form an equal distant, 5 of them, forming a sort of circular pattern. And when you have 5 points in a circle equal distant, what does that make? Kiddies, you've been to geometry. Let's see, 5 points in a circle equal distant. Well, that would give you the shape of a pentacle. Yes, I'm sure she did it with the point toward herself so that it forms the satanic pentacle of evil, because it's Cindy. What would she be? She wouldn't be doing a good, nice Wiccan pentacle. No, she'd be doing the darker, satanic type. The type you could put a picture of a goat in the middle and it would fit in quite niftily. You know the one I mean. And so she's there and she mutters her incantations, and using her pyrokinetic powers, because it's revealed at this point that dear Cindy is kind of like Drew Barrymore was in that Stephen King movie. She's a fire starter, just like the Prodigy has them the song, and it bursts into flame. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. 5 points of aim, and of course it forms a burning pentacle of fire, and next thing you know, the fire whooshes up into the oak and burns the Halloween tree to the ground. Burn, burn, burn. Burning things. Cindy likes to burn things, and apparently this destroys the 5 icons. Goodbye, Jack. Goodbye, Albert. Goodbye, Elsa. Goodbye, Paolo. Goodbye, Julian. You're gone forever. Burned to ashes. Cindy has triumphed. And where there once was a stately oak, now there's a withered, blackened trunk with 4 great branches, 2 like this and 2 like this, forming a double X, the sign of Halloween Horror Nights 20, with the smoke coming up. Oh, this would be the great symbol of the event, apparently. So that was the idea. Somehow Cindy would do this ritual and end the past and usher in a new age of darkness. But then somebody higher up at Comcast or somewhere decided that the little dead girl idea was still politically incorrect or something. I don't know. And so Cindy had to go bye-bye again. Although not really completely bye-bye. She stayed at the event. She still was in the scare zone that featured, that would have been the central scare zone of Cindy taking over. So she stayed in that scare zone, which got changed up a bit. And she stayed in the house that she was supposed to have, her icon house. That remained there. I don't think they had to change that one up at all. So they did that. They kept Cindy at the event, but she was no longer the icon. They had to replace her with another iconic figure, you see. Oh, so that's what happened before the event. Of course, at the time, we didn't know what was going on because this was all right about this time of year, and February, March, April, early before we knew what was going on at the event. But there was some leaks that year, although quite unusual, not like the leaks of previous years. The previous years, some of the first leaks came from the permits, remember? Especially in 2008. In 2009, there were code names on the permits, well, not the actual names of the houses. In 2010, they had wised up completely, and they no longer had the code names even on the permits. So all it said was a temporary haunted house location, or something like that, temporary structure for a haunted house or Halloween Horror Nights. Didn't say what it was. So, oh dear, you couldn't know from the permit what the house was going to be like. You could guess at the one from 19 based on code words. They still use the code words. In fact, they still use them today. And they've actually hinted at these code words, some of them to us, the ones they don't think we're going to guess, like cobweb was brought up this year. But back then, they decided to be a little more tight-lipped because everybody got all the code words. You know, Hammer and Harry and Big Guy. Everybody got all those code words when they came up on the permits in 2009. And so they wanted to make it a little more secretive. They took the code words off the permits. We did know that there were some things where the vortex tunnel would be in the house in the parade building, and that there would be also a museum corridor in that house, because you can find some details in the permit sometimes, but not much and not always. But we had no idea what exactly that meant. A museum corridor? Would it be something like the Mummy, or would it be some sort of set in an old museum? Maybe a museum curator could be. You know, we had no idea what was going on there. What's going on? Vortex tunnel. Why would that be there? And so we learned a little bit about that, but we didn't know what the houses were going to be based on the permits, you see. But then another form of leakage began to occur, involving a mysterious person posting at Facebook and at Horror Night Nightmares, a mysterious person called Emmerich Velasco. But we'll get to that next time.